Welcome into 11 Personnel, presented by Monticello Bank. Visit them at mbcbank.com today. Great friends, presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. I'm Nick Roush. He's Adam Leckett. And it's a little bit quicker turnaround. Basketball schedule shuffled the deck a little bit on us, Leckett. But, you know, it wouldn't be the offseason if we didn't have some wild-ass stories going around this Kentucky football fan base.
Never really a dull moment here, Nick. Like I said, for us leaving the draft, when we made the trek to Kansas City, you can't say this job is boring. And that is ringing true here on January 16th.
January 16th, mind you. We just celebrated MLK Day. One round of NFL playoff action has happened. It's very, very early in this offseason, and it's been an eventful one. In fact, this was supposed to be the time, Luckett, where we were supposed to kind of exhale a little bit. We were going to have a Sunday filled with football games in the NFL and just kind of, we'll throw some posts up. It'll be a nice, easy day. And that was not the case. Whatsoever. And it's kind of how it's been. And once again, we're playing the waiting game with Liam Coen. If you clicked on the post on KentuckySportsRadio.com to get to this edition of the show, I noted that this is the fourth time we've played the Liam Coen waiting game. It's like, first off, who's it going to be? We think it's Shane Waldron. It's not. It's Liam Coen. Then we play the, oh God, Sean McVay, please don't call Liam Coen and take our prince that was promised away. Well, he did. And he left. And then the longest waiting game was last year, where they started whispering about Coen in, mid-November, and I don't think they announced anything until January. So hopefully it doesn't take that long this go-around. I want to say it was January 12th when they announced him. So we almost made it 365 days without more Liam Coen drama, but here we are. Right.
If they had it their way, we wouldn't know anything about what's going on right now. But
seriously.
But NFL's a little less cloak and dagger than college football, so we know that there is some contact with the Bears. There has been some type of interview. Now, we don't know if that was informal or official meeting. Nick, if you're following this search at all, it's pretty clear what the Bears are looking for. Mm-hmm. They want somebody off that Shanahan-McVay tree. Waldron, we mentioned, Coen, Greg Olson, who was on the Rams staff last year with Coen. Then we've got, let's see here, Clint Kubiak, son of Gary Kubiak. Gary Kubiak
was a
longtime assistant for Mike Shanahan.
Gary Kubiak always felt like he was a younger guy. He has a son that's old enough to be an NFL offensive coordinator.
I mean, he's like Clint. His son's like 34, 35. I mean, he's not.
I did
that
see
old, but Gary Kubiak's in his 60s, I would say.
Man, I guess it's one of those things.
Mid-60s, probably.
You blink and it happens quickly. But there is a chance that, depending on how this hiring process goes, that there will be a quarter of the NFL will be under 40 years old, and Sean McVay is this grizzled old vet, and he's 38 years old. He's been the head coach of the Rams for like 6 years, and he's still not 40, which is just crazy to say out loud. But you listed most of the candidates there. We can get into the Chancelleries and all that. But I do want to just start off the top by just noting that, fans, we get the fatigue. We understand it, because you wouldn't expect the guy that coached last year's offense to be ready to bolt for the NFL. It was one thing when they went 10-3 and it was the best offense we'd ever seen under Mark Stoops. Will Levis, Wan'Dale Robinson breaking records, right? We kind of understood it. That's part of this whole deal. It's a transactional business.
It's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It feels like the fans didn't get their back scratched, and now the coaches are getting their back scratched. I get it, yeah.
And especially on the heels of, 14-12 the last two seasons, and then 10-12 against Power 5 opponents? Or 8-12 in the SEC? Is that right?
8-12 total. You got 2 wins over Louisville, 2 3-win conference season, 0 bowl wins last 2 years, 8-12.
Yeah. So we get it. We understand the fatigue, and that's what I think. Where I'm feeling all of that right now. Like, and you know what? I think even I'm feeling it too. Like some of it's like, can we not just have a damn minute to like I've been wanting to just write about the season. I can't even write about last season. Like it's not even like there's just no. So I just wanted to start by saying I understand. I get the fatigue with all of this. But we're still going to talk about it. We're still going to discuss it, and we're still going to try to give you the. I'm going to at least try to remove how pissed off I was that we were dealing with this on Sunday. At least me personally, where I'm just like, I mean, come on, like, well, because to spoiler alert, like, it's probably not going to happen. So that's another part of this that I think is also adding to some of the frustration right now.
It wasn't even that. I mean, it pops Friday night, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Jones, who's on, I'm pretty sure he's on CBS's NFL pregame show.
Yeah,
like
he does.
He's their version of Jay Glazer, what Jay Glazer does for Fox. I'm pretty sure
he does a lot of HQ stuff for them too.
Yeah, so he pops or sends a tweet out, X post, whatever you want to call it, saying that Liam Coen going to interview, yada yada yada. And so now we're kind of in a holding pattern. There's now talk that maybe they're maybe folks inside that building aren't seeing eye to eye of what was expected. So really, we just don't it's a lot of scuttlebutt. I feel like at this point about what's going on, and you're never going to get them on record to say what's actually going on. But it's clear that I don't think everybody over there is pulling the rope in the same direction. At least that's what it feels like to me. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and so off a year where Nick, it seemed like the offense. I'm not going to say they totally or the team totally. Obviously, they didn't totally quit or anything, but there was some splintering, I think, over there. There's been a lot of talk about how leadership on offense was bad. Both Merrill and Coen have said that, or they said they needed more leadership. So obviously they didn't reach a certain level that they expect, and so you have all that's a concern, and then you have, your head coach and your offensive coordinator actively seeking employment. Now, I don't think that's something crazy that's unexpected, but that it's happened in this short of time and it's became public at jobs where they weren't slam dunks to get, right.
Right.
They weren't. They were willing to roll the dice, knowing that this was going to become public, and that they could very well not get the job. You have to wonder, would that have happened 2 years ago? And so all of that leaves us with where is this program at right now? What is it going to look like next year? I mean, they're coming off 2 disappointing seasons, like we talked about. I think all 3 phases have contributed to the disappointment, and I think that there's a lot of blame, I think, to go around. And so, just where are they right now? And what does that look like heading into the season? And what happens if they have to do a coordinator search here in late January again? Mm-hmm. And it's just there's more. I not necessarily bad things, but there's more why are they dealing with this? They just this or that, And then I think recruiting wise, Nick. They're very much choosing to operate in the shadows, which is their choice. But I really think they could get a buzz if they would be like, hey, look who we're recruiting. Look who we're about to get. I really think they could help themselves if they would do that. But that's their choice that they don't want it. They're just not wanting to do that. They're very much wanting to keep things locked, information locked over there. And so I think you have a portion of this fan base that is pretty irked right now with everything going on. And then the recruiting period has started, Nick, and I don't see any pictures of coaches on the road. I think I've seen Chris Collins and Zach Yenser, and that's it. And I think some, the folks that follow recruiting closely are probably the most critical of Stoops right now and are going to be the loudest over these next 6-7 months and then into the season. And I don't think that's going to get quiet at all because people are pissed. The fans are pissed right now.
People want action to be taken following a bad season, and then you fire one person, which, like, all right, there's one thing, and you go and you get some pretty decent transfers, and we're going to talk about their most recent addition a little later on, and that was a nice add, but all you're hearing instead of, like, this is what we're doing to fix it is people complaining about what went wrong and then trying to leave from it. Because at the heart of this, there's a lot of talk about Coen and the control of the offense or a lack of discipline, which I guess we can go ahead and get into because the part that I've always you mentioned it too. Merrill and Coen both mentioned it publicly, wanting more leadership and there being a lack of discipline. First off, I don't really buy that because, like, if Liam doesn't like the discipline on the team, like it was his offense, he's responsible for them. Like, you do that. You're that's like the hot dog guy. Blame, like, I don't know who ran this car into this building right here. Like, that's your job, and ultimately you are responsible for answering to the head coach. But if the guys in your locker room aren't doing what they need to be doing, then you do something about it. And I know this is a little different in the nil era, but, like, that's your job. The other part of this too, like, this would be different if it was Rich Scangarello and he was walking into something he had no idea.
Yes, yeah.
Like,
I think that's a great point.
Like, Mark Stoops, like you all, everybody right now who's like, man, this team, there was no discipline. Man, every time it gets brought up on KS Board, I'm like, y'all think Lynn Bowden was disciplined? Y'all, like, this is how Stoops has operated this program for 11 years, right? Like, it
needs strong. You need strong. Well, I think to do that, Nick, like to play on that razor thin edge that I think they prefer to play on, your player leadership has got to be strong, and there's got to be, I think, strong accountability in that locker room. And if you're maybe someone that's a little bit of a knucklehead, but if you kick ass on Saturdays, or when push comes to shove, you deliver. I think, and you get guys in line. I think there was some of that was missing on offense, and I go back to the offensive line. That's the group that typically sets the tone for your team, and if your offense thinks your offensive line sucks, that's going to be a team with poor leadership, or potentially poor leadership to me. If they don't believe the guys if they don't believe in the guys up front, because then it becomes everything. Everything becomes the line's fault, right? Everything's the line's fault. This or that, and then you have all the turnover you've had at quarterback for it is what it is, and the turnover at coordinator. So you just got a lot of there's a lot of issues that they've got to iron out, and they've got to get some stability. And you don't get some stability for 5 offensive coordinators in 5 seasons. And that's why I think when you kind of look at the Zach Yenzer retainment, I think it makes sense from that aspect. Like, man, we've had a ton of coordinator turnover here. Like, the line, we could hammer the high school recruiting all we want. But they're starting to build it a little bit, I'd say. And I think on paper, you look at that group going into next year, it'll be the best on paper group they've had in the last 3 years. I think 22, 23, 24. I think you would take the 24 version over those previous 2. Mm-hmm. And so it's getting some level better. So you don't want to just like totally torpedo that again. But then again, I get why people want change. But lack of stability has been this offense's, I think, biggest problem, even though they've kind of kept a similar scheme here the last 3, or really last 4 years, I guess, 21, 22, 23, and then assuming Coen stays 24. Mm-hmm. But it's still different, and I think they're still kind of reeling from that. But you mentioned just the lack of discipline. I mean, like Coen, I mean, I just there's so much we don't know, and it's hard for
Right.
us to speak on.
We're
Like,
kind of getting
and I
just
do want to
what
get to
people
the
want us to hear.
yeah, I do want to get to the control of the offense
Because this is what Chase brought up. He
question.
said maybe he's trying to discipline him, and Stoops isn't letting him. And you
Yeah,
know what?
maybe so.
That could be fair. Like if you think that some players don't operate under a different set of rules than others, like that is that's how it works, right? But the thing that I just can't figure out of all of this, and it's the one lingering thought I have is just like I don't know what Cohen's end game is here, because like did he really think he was going to get the Bears job? He wasn't doing this to get a raise. We've seen that before, and you know what? We even understand when that happens.
Yeah, that's the weird part because there's not really room for a raise. Like,
right.
He's like top 10 in coordinator pay.
Yeah, in the country, and they just
Yeah.
had a 35th ranked defense. Like you're not going to get a raise out of it. So I don't know what the end game is here, unless it does go back to this sort of control part, right?
Feels like a power struggle to me, reading in between the lines.
And I don't know if it's who it's between either. Is it Cohen
Right,
and
yeah.
Stoops? Is it Cohen and Merrill? Is it Cohen and Watt? Like I don't know what the hell is going on over there between all these parties. But there's something there that we don't know, because I can't figure out the motivation behind this move, because like you said earlier, it was going to end up getting out, and I just don't know. Like you can speak on it some more. I'll pass you the mic, but I don't know what this control is, because it's felt like Stoops is about as clear as he possibly can when he can, that like he's like I can't. I don't have time to do all this. Like I know that there's a certain way we think he wants to play, but Stoops was bitching about plays not getting in fast enough last year. So like that's the part of this that I tend to be on the other side of thinking that Stoops has his hand shoved up his ass and is making Cohen do all the talking, right? But so that's the part of this that I don't really get. Our fearless leader Matt Jones said today that like if Liam does leave, I've heard from both sides of this that there is like that won't be an issue, but I don't know what it possibly could have been, because it's felt like Liam's been able to do. I mean, if you talk about personnel, he recruited all these guys 2 years ago. He picked Leary, even though Leary got here first and blah blah blah. Like though, a lot of these guys are his guys. So that's the part that I don't quite understand.
Yeah, I do wonder from a personnel aspect before I kind of dive into this. Like, I wonder, recruiting wise, they're very one person driven over there.
Yeah, Vince does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Vince, like, part of the reason the offensive line is in better shape, Nick, is because Vince went out and signed players.
Yeah.
So, they lean on him a lot, you know. Tryon Nichols, the Smiths, Brian Robinson, all of the guys we're really excited about in that freshman class was Merrill did all of that. Vince did all of that.
Yep, he gets the good guys.
So how much of it is, and with that comes some, I think, and with that, and combined with his tenure, like if he wants a kid in, he can probably, for Stoops, he can probably get him in. So how much does that maybe? Are there some guys that they've added that Cohen really didn't check the box? Maybe. How much of that's going on? Just how much is it just like ego driven, right?
Yeah.
Like,
how much of it is them like getting in fights over who to take and who not to?
Yeah. And for me, control. What does control of the offense mean? Does it mean all personnel decisions? Does it mean all play calls? Does it mean all down and distance decisions, game management decisions? What does that mean? Like, I don't know what that means. Like, that's what I would like to know. Like, what does that mean?
Because really, I would think that right now, Cohen probably does 75% of that, and the one exception would be down and distance stuff.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I look at it like at KSR. If I wanted to be head of football content, right? All football content went through me, and I went and told Matt that, he would tell me to piss off, like you know. So I that's why I don't really understand what that means.
Like you have a boss.
the buck stops here eventually, right? Yeah.
Right,
So I
exactly.
don't really know what that means. Now, stop. Like maybe it is just pace of play. To me, like the biggest criticism you could probably give is in the half, like being more aggressive in the half in situations like that. Maybe
Yeah.
that's what it means. Having your foot on the gas pedal more. Um, when Stoops gets leads, we have a long track record of they tend to get conservative on offense, and I think that has worked a lot. But maybe it's more like let's try to land a knockout punch or whatever. I don't know, but but there's always going to be of like this is Mark Stoops' offense at the end of the day. It still is. He's the head coach, right? This is his football program. And so there's always going to be, because you hear coaches all the time when they change coordinators that we run all offense. Any head coach is going to have their hands on both the offense and the defense, what they want it to look like. And so I just don't know what control of the offense means at the end of the day. Is that just something that they throw out there for us to
Well,
argue about it when it really means nothing? Like, what are we even
yeah.
arguing about?
And also, I mean, how many times has Cohen been in charge of anything, in control of anything in his entire career? Twice, and it's been his 2 years at Kentucky. I guess he called plays at Maine. But I would trust the head coach too in a lot of those situations. Even though the offense has been bad, he's made a lot more decisions than me. So that part of all of this has fascinated me, because it does feel like there is some sort of power struggle over there.
Yeah, I mean I don't understand
That's
it,
the
man.
clear part. But like, why does it need to be done through all like? Why are these methods being used for it that are getting all of us all pissed off? Because people are already plenty good and pissed off at this football program already, and
Yeah.
all they're doing is just like, all right, here, let me pour another gallon of gas on it. So
Yeah, I just think I can only go from where I'm sitting and what I'm hearing from fans and feedback. And I know that's probably a more rabid section of the fan base, but it's very much like I think there's commitment questions right now.
mm-hmm.
Like, how committed are they over there? And it seems like it's they want to just like they're very much operating just they want to operate quiet and not leak anything out in the shadows. But there's only so much you can, right? Like we're gonna
Yeah.
find out some stuff eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll see how it goes. Like, are they gonna have it? Like what are they gonna do? Are they gonna have a spring game? Are they gonna try to get out of it again? I mean, I don't know. Are they gonna throw a bone to the fans at all in regards to that? We're gonna have some open practices, stuff like that. I don't know. I just think this is an irked fan base. I think like the Jim Pop of the fan base, Nick. I think they're disappointed, but I don't think they've lost faith in Stoops at all. But I do feel like a section of the diehard is like almost on the bridge, right? Like almost ready to hit the panic button.
Yeah. Oh, it's the first time that I've seen like legitimate. All right, I'm ready to move on from Stoops sort of stuff, which is crazy to say a year after we were celebrating him for the most wins in Kentucky football
Yeah.
history. But like there is some people now who are just like, well, I don't know if this is ever going to change. I don't know if he wants to change. So let's hit the reset button. And
Yeah, I think
it's just not as much of a fringe. I'm mad because we've lost. Like it's and part of it is because they're giving us signs that say that like, well, they're probably thinking this way too. And it's the
yeah,
looking for the other
yeah,
jobs. Which
yeah.
here's my question to you, Luckett. Let's refocus here with the refocus fitness question. You need to get focused now in the new year with your fitness. It's open 24 hours a day. It's conveniently located right off Nicholasville Road. And that's the thing is it's 24/7 access. So like you just go in and out. Nobody's going to bother you. But if you want private training, they will hook you up. Free consultation. The first one's free. You can train with other groups, small groups. You can train one-on-one with an individual. They'll set up the plan to get you in shape, to get you refocused this year. No contracts, hidden fees, or crazy startup costs. Leave the gym anxiety behind. Visit refocusfitness.com. Look it. Let's refocus here, and let me ask you, do we think any of Stoops and A&M, do we think this is connected in any way to Liam putting feelers out there for the NFL?
I think you have to wonder when they had the talks for him to come back or whatever, and Stoops said it was a multi-year commitment from Coen. Coen said he planned to stay here for multiple years. I think you have to wonder if Coen saw that Stoops tried to leave, maybe like, well, screw this. I want to get out of here too. And I do think a portion of the Bears is for Coen to keep his name in the NFL ether.
Yes. That's the part of me that I'm talking myself off the ledge on all this. That like, well, he just needs to be interviewed every year. Like Eric Bieniemy got interviewed how many years, and he didn't want to take any of those jobs because he just wanted to keep coaching Patrick Mahomes. But he still wanted to be desired as like a potential guy down the road. So you kind of have to keep your name out there. That's the one thing that I'm telling myself is like, well, maybe he's just doing this because he has to get that NFL job down the road.
Yeah, so you have to wonder that, but again, they don't seem like a program that is all in at the moment. It seems like there's people are pulling ropes in different directions. I mean, that's just what it seems like.
Disalignment, unalignment, slip disc.
Yeah, we don't have alignment. We have fractures in a fractured family. I mean, I just, you have to wonder what's going on over there.
What do they do at Auburn? Like, what does Hoke do when they go through this rigmarole every year? Jeffrey Lee, our friends at Auburn Live. I mean, they go through this kind of stuff all the time. That's the other part of this too that I like. Just trying to remind people that like people do like it's kind of an annual thing. Now this is a little unique in the timing of it, particularly because if Coen, like let's say he's like, you know what, the Bears they swing and miss. Because here's the part about this Bears job to kind of get back to the chances that he might actually leave. It's not the best job. A lot of Bears offense coordinators get fired. Most of them get fired, in fact, because the Bears stink at offense. They always have. They pretty much always will. And Matt Eberflus did enough not stinking at the end of the year to save his job and get a chance at the number 1 pick next year, who might be Caleb Williams. So a lot of what this is like that job is attractive because of that number 1 pick. And
the Bears should have a good roster next year after rebuilding with cap space and high-level draft capital.
Getting DJ Moore in, right?
You know, they look like they had a top 10 defense at the end of the year last year.
Correct.
You know, invest in the offense. It looks like they should be a team that could go compete for a playoff spot next year, but they're potentially doing it with a rookie quarterback.
Yeah.
And so you don't.
Or you're tying yourself to
trigger?
Justin Fields too, and if he sucks, then like you might be done off the get-go. So that's going to make this because when you listen to the candidates earlier, right? Like Shane Waldron made Geno Smith look good.
That seems like to me, just the football guy. That seems like the one. Like if you're the Bears, was a good offensive coordinator. Let's bring this guy in and let him run our offense.
My only question is, does he hold out? Like, does he want a different job? Right? Like, so
yeah, that's something you might have to wonder. Yeah, for sure.
That's the part that's weird in this job where you could see him slipping down and getting too Coen. Where I'm at right now, look at I think he's here to stay. But the reason why there is so much of this panic and fervor too, on top of what I led off the show with, doing the thing with the NFL, it worked for Stoops. But man, this timing of like finding a coach right now is not easy. It's a little different if you're Alabama and you're looking for a new coach and looking for a new defensive coordinator. But it's not a great time to do a college football offensive coordinator coach.
I think if it opened, you can't even go back to the NFL. You just got to get a college guy who there's going to be a base level that you're going to get. You can't do, I think, what you did, I guess 2 years ago whenever Scangarello was hired.
Caleb Williams, quarterback coach.
To me, Nick, I just look at all of these things in a vacuum aren't like that big of a deal. Any like functional power conference program that is winning games and going to bowls and having some level of success, like there's going to be interest. There's going to be teams that try to hire your coaches when you do that. So that A&M was interested in Stoops wasn't crazy.
No.
That Cohen's drawing some interest is not crazy. It's just how it's happened and in this kind of situation where they've had 2 bad seasons in a row over there. They've come fairly short of expectations. They've lost a lot of home games they should be winning. And they've had some embarrassing performances. And that after all of that this is happening, I think really rubs some people the wrong way, and I understand that.
Yeah.
That feels like not how this should work, right? It almost, like, to compare it to basketball, it almost feels like, the basketball, like, they go, you have a one and done after a NIT team or whatever. It's like, hey now, like,
yeah.
if we're gonna do this, like, we should at least, like,
Right.
like, where's what like, what everybody eats, where's our piece of the pie at? That we're not getting anything to eat over here.
Got to cut out pie, though. It's a new year where we're getting more focus.
So that's where I think a lot of the angst and anger, I think, comes from.
Yeah.
Is all of that. And they just really haven't, the Mississippi State win at home was a big win. Beating Louisville were big wins. And even Florida was a big win, but they've just had so many disappointing losses. Like South Carolina this year, Vandy last year. Like, if you just win those 2 games, I think people look at it totally different. But you lose, though, and it's just like, ugh. And then you go to the Music City Bowl, same time as Kentucky's playing Louisville in basketball. Like that makes people up. That upsets people. And then how you lost the Clemson game, I think irks people some more.
Like the bowls that are supposed to be a fun reward haven't felt like a fun reward either. There's just there's it's not to say there hasn't been great fun moments the last 2 years, but there's a Charlie Brown element, and Lucy's pulling out the ball, and it's like and we're just kind of waiting, like, all right, well, can we go a week? Can we just talk about Gerald Mincy? Like, right? Can we have that for an hour?
Well, that gets back to my point, like
they're giving us nothing to, like, be excited and positive about.
I don't understand it. I really don't. It makes no sense to me. I really don't understand why they feel the need to keep everything so quiet.
It made sense when it was John Summerall with 3 or 4 guys, but it was only for, like, his big top secret projects, and those worked out at the end. But we were still hearing about other guys throughout the process. Not all of them landed here. Some of them did. And some of that worked, like Jacoby Albert.
I think there's some high level guys that they missed on, that probably even came to Lexington, that we just don't know about.
Yeah,
and I think if people knew about them,
feel a lot better.
I think
how much better did we feel when we thought AJ Harris was a chance for just 3 hours on a Wednesday night?
I think people would be like, "Oh, look at them! They're over there like."
They're swimming in deep waters.
Yeah.
They're with the big fishes.
Instead,
they're looking and scrolling and being like, Tyler Barron's going to Louisville. Louisville, Portal Kings, blah, 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 blah.
I think they should. I don't know why they're not doing that. But that's their decision.
Yep.
It just looks. I don't. It looks like the house is on fire and they're trying to get out. I mean, that's what it kind of looks like. So, I'm very interested to see the tone if Coen decides to come back. Like, do they spin it as he wanted to stay, or do they just try to not even talk about it? I'm very interested to see kind of what that looked like and how they try to pitch that.
Well, and I think a good barometer is going to be 15 Club Fan Fest this weekend. They had their first one last year, and I actually thought it ran incredibly well. It was the first one, I think.
Didn't they do it for a big basketball game last year?
Kansas.
Wasn't it like the Kansas game?
Yeah.
Why are they doing it for the Tennessee game this year?
Is Tennessee next weekend?
It's February 3rd.
Yeah, I don't know why they wouldn't do it then either, because that's going to be their big senior day, or not senior day, big junior day. Yeah. So, it could be just the convention center's booked that day, right? Because they got to have it at the convention center next door.
That's a good point.
But I if you thought about going, I thought it was great last year. Like kids were free, so if you paid for you and your wife to go, it was $30. the money's going to the players, and then your kids get to hang out with them, and they had bouncies and stuff like that. I thought it was great. I heard the Owensboro one was not done as well, but I'm fascinated by how what the turnout's going to be for this one, because last year there was this sort of, it was almost like a celebration of off-season wins, right? You had gotten Coen back. You got to meet Leary and Ray Davis. These were some huge
Vibes were better this time last year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm curious what it's going to be like on Saturday, but it is going to be a lot of fans' first time to meet Brock Vandegrift. He's not going to bring any of his dead ducks with him, hopefully. But a lot of those guys will be there. So that's Saturday. They're showing up at 2, and it's going to run through 5. I think the basketball game's at 6 against Georgia. And if you're a 15 Club member, you get in for free. Check it out, Kentucky15.com. That's not a paid ad. I'm just want to make sure everybody's well aware, because especially if our kids are too little. But if we were in Central Kentucky and you got 7, 8-year-old, that's a fun little afternoon activity. I would have enjoyed it as a kid. So something to consider. But I think that crowd is going to be curious what turnout's going to be. I'm excited just to hear some of these guys talk. I don't know if I've ever heard Brock Vandegrift speak. They keep him all bottled up over there at Georgia, so I'm not really
That's true.
exactly sure how all that's going to go. Although we might be getting some of them speaking to us soon, so just something to keep.
Yeah, they've done that the week before the Super Bowl or Super Bowl week in the past. So that's coming up.
Yeah,
that's typically how that's worked. We'll see how they decide to do that this year, but yeah, we should get to hear. And I see other schools announcing guys that signed after the early signing period transfers.
Mm-hmm.
So I would assume we're going to get Mincy and Christian Story announced from UK at some point here in the coming days.
Well, I love Derek in the chat. Rainer's coming back. That's positive news. Yeah,
it is
they're
positive.
Going to be flocking to hear from the kicker. But yeah, it is. It is. It's also just Alex Rayner only kicking 30-yard field goals and a couple 40s here and there. Just he had an idea. It was like, hey, we got a good kicker. Can we use him a little bit more? A lot of it was unusual circumstance, but nevertheless, I'm going to close the book on Coen content. You feeling good about it? Think he's going to stay?
I do think he's going to stay. There's going to be some level of panic if he decides to leave. Now, Nick, I'm working to try to figure out the rule if the coordinator leaves at this point in the calendar. If there's the 2-week window that we're seeing at Alabama and Washington and Arizona right now, if the head coach leaves. As of right now, I don't think there would be that, as long as the head coach is in place.
Yeah.
So if Coen were to leave, we would have to wait to the spring. So guys he helped recruit Vandegrift, obviously the big one, Jamori Macklin, some of these other guys. I think they would be.
The new coach would get a tryout, basically.
Yeah, but what you would have is what you did in December, probably November to keep some guys on your roster. You would have to probably do it all over again in April, and I bet that's something they want no part of over there.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very important to get him to stay. But I think, Nick, we're going to be waiting for a little bit because these NFL hires, they take their time, and so we could just. I know it's been reported Stone Saunders is visiting, but I wouldn't put any stock into all of that because Cohen's employed here until he isn't, and so of course they're going to operate like he's going to be working here next year. They're not going to be like, well, I'm waiting for Matt Eberflus to call me back, so they ask me next week. They're just going to keep operating like nothing's going on. Mm-hmm. But until we get the Bears move to the next step of their process or hire a coach or whatever the next step for them is, we're just in a holding pattern.
And you can bet on it. You can't actually bet on it on FanDuel, but you should download FanDuel Sportsbook, America's #1 sportsbook app. Because right now, it's great. You don't even have to win your bet when you sign up to get your bonus bets right now. You just got to place a $5 bet, $150 in bonus bets. Sign up today. FanDuel.com/pigskin, promo code pigskin. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook app. It's here. Look it, I did the thing where I logged my bets early in the week, and then there was some material changes in the weather. So a thing I learned about FanDuel Sportsbook app, I was traveling to Ohio. You can't cash out if you place the bets in Kentucky. So I was like, oh, dang it. I don't know if I want to bet the Packers +7, but you know what? Thanks, FanDuel. You didn't let me cash out that bet. Easiest bet ever. It probably did make me pause and not sprinkle on the money line as well. But we got that all back with the Bucks. Shout out to the Bucks for putting the Eagles out of their misery. You've got, what, 4 NFL games? No. Yeah, 4 games this weekend, 2 next, and then the Super Bowl. Only 7 left. So download the FanDuel Sportsbook app /pigskin. Make sure you get your wagers in. And just remember that you must be 21 plus, present in Kentucky or any other legal gambling state. Like I was in Ohio placing bets. It's your first online real money wager, only $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued is non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expires 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. I hope you get some big winners this weekend. Like we're going to talk about in a moment. We got to say it was nice getting a win on Friday when Gerald Mincey visited and committed to Kentucky. We talked. I think we touched about it a little bit last Thursday, but when you laid out the depth chart, I felt much better about it. Seeing Gerald Mincey there. And I might argue with you. I might think that he might come in and maybe beat out Cortland Ford at right tackle. But, you know, we're splitting hairs here. There's a legit competition here. And it's just – I'm just so glad there's – you could write 4 offensive tackles there and not just having Dylan Ray back up all of the spots.
Yeah, I think Gerald Mincey, #1, I think he gives you a legitimate option at right tackle, potentially starting caliber SEC player here. I even think, Nick, like when he moves to NFL draft time, they're going to want him potentially at guard. So I don't know if he'd be interested in that. I think he would be good at guard. And you're looking at wanting to be more physical and move people off the point of attack, which is kind of what they've been saying. We have to be able to run the ball. I think he can do that. That's his strength, is displacing people and getting some movement on double teams. And so I think it will help really a lot in that. And just the offensive depth chart in general, Nick, just kind of getting this exercise and writing that out, I feel good about it. I feel good about their roster. I think they've really raised the floor at offensive line and receiver. I really do think they have some legitimate depth at those 2 places now. Tight end is still a deep position, I believe. Running back, I think, is a position to watch this spring to see if Jamarian Wilcox or Jason Patterson emerge as like a legit guy for them. If they don't, I think that's a position they could look to go and double dip in the portal. And then quarterback, it's, you know, all your eggs are pretty much in the Brock Vandagriff basket, but you've got Bo Allen and Cutter Boley. I think is going to be a better backup quarterback situation than what they've had the last couple of years.
Probably your best backup situation you felt since, ironically, when you brought Sawyer Smith in, and then hell, he ends up getting hurt.
So you need your stars to be stars, but your stars here, Nick, are juniors or redshirt seniors or redshirt juniors or potential redshirt seniors. Like, you're older. And so I think there's a lot to like about the offense. And I think I'm going to say a lot of the same things about the defense when I get into it. I think the roster is in a good position. That's another reason why this whatever's going on is frustrating, because it seems like they have a good roster. Like, I don't have any issue with the roster building or the talent accumulation right now with them. I think they're doing a good job. You know, that can change. We'll see what this next high school recruiting cycle brings, but they're doing a good job getting players here. But it seems like seems like everyone's trying to get out of there. So what's really going on?
I mean, we were bitching and moaning because they didn't get an offensive tackle. They went and got an offensive tackle. We thought they were done. But, you know, the rules, it's hard for me to keep up with how the rules work. I like that Shaka, he asked the question. He's happy that we got Mincey, but is asking about the Malachi Woods buzz, and is he potentially competing for a starting spot? And I think the answer to that is no, Luckett, that probably not competing for a starting spot. It's like usually takes 3 years. You want to.
Yeah, I would say here on this, I think he had a good first year. I think he impressed them year one.
Yeah.
Now year two, I think like these next few months are, I think, probably the most important for him, getting stronger, and then developing as a player this year. So I think he's still on the development track, but I think the early returns, they like what they got from him last year. Now for him, it's really, I think he needs to hit that weight room and hit the training table and get bigger.
Yeah, which, man, that would be
and fill out that tall frame he's got.
I'm sure it's hard and there's days where it's miserable, but that sounds like a lot of fun right now. Like,
yeah, I mean, you've heard the stories where guys wake up at 3 a.m. and eat 2 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and.
Oh yeah, chunks of milk sounds great.
Yeah,
I'd love to do it. I got I was you get your little Facebook memories like it. I got one today, and it's the most freshman year of college thing that you could ever say. Never spent so much time doing nothing was my Facebook post, and I'm just like, you bastard, you don't know how good you had it, did you?
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I used to skip class all the time too. That was the year that I got. Parents were almost ready to bring my ass home after that one. So yeah, I spent a lot of time doing nothing. It'd be fun just to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna spend my days going to class for 3 hours and then working out and eating a bunch of food. Like, sounds miserable.
Drinking some pops.
Yeah, lots of pop. I'll tell you a good way to gain 30 pounds. Drink about 30 of them Coors Lights every weekend. Look at one other thing about the depth chart too. You only went 4 deep on your receivers. I think they're going to play, which my point is they're going to need 6. I would say, right? Is that a fair number?
Yeah, I would say.
So that's going to be like a spring practice storyline. It's like, all right, feel pretty good about these guys. Who are the other ones?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's really what I was trying to get. I know these are the established ones, and we'll see. Like, I think size is a big one, Nick. They need some more size. So you look at Raymond Cottrell, Shamar Porter, Ardell Banks. They're going to need one of those guys, right? Yeah, one of those guys to step up and take a role. And then Harley Gilmore was at the bowl practice, and he was getting real reps with the twos in the practice I went to. That's the guy I'll be watching closely. I think that's a guy they really like. It was a player I really liked as a high school prospect. He reclassified, so he was a year early in this class, but he's a guy I would watch because that could end up, I think, being a really, really good recruiting win for them. And it seems like they like him a lot. At least the one practice I saw that he was getting reps over guys that you would be surprised that he was getting in over, at least from where I was watching at practice.
Well, you can take that to the bank. Harley Gilmore, take it to Monticello Bank. Remember, FDIC Equal Housing Lender, proud presenting sponsors of 11 Personnel. Big fans of Monticello Bank. They've been in business 138,000 years. Just kidding. But it is 124 now. I'm so bad at my math sometimes, but that's why they put the numbers on your side. They're good at math, so you don't have to be. Monticello Bank, where people matter. Luckett, you got your wish in the AFC. We have pretty much a dream scenario for the divisional round. Not all of the higher seeds won. Well, I guess they all did, didn't they?
Yeah, it's chalk.
Okay,
AFC.
It is chalk. But it's just the Browns were favorites, so my mind was a little warped there. But this is as fun as Joe Flacco going back to Baltimore is a fun storyline. The brand of offense that the Texans can play with C.J. Stroud and co. First rookie quarterback to win rookie quarterback and rookie coach to win a playoff game. There's been some other rookie quarterbacks like Big Ben got a win. I think Russ got a win, but he was with experienced franchises that had a lot around him. Like, they're really building it there in Houston. So the AFC could be a lot of fun. Josh Allen looks like he's just – and I know that they kind of let the Steelers make a run there in the third quarter, but I like where the Bills' heads are at going into this game with the Chiefs.
Yeah. I think this is the third year in a row, Nick. It's been all chalk in the AFC and going into the divisional round. So that trend keeps. So that might be something to remember moving forward. To me, I like this more than the wild card round. I know you would probably disagree, but
Well, they helped your case this weekend with a bunch of blowouts, right?
yeah.
I mean, really, one game was close at the end, and God, the calls by the coaches and the officials and the Rams.
Yeah, Saturday was disappointing because it was like you wait all week and it's just like Joe Flacco yakety sacks throwing it to the other team, and then
the Dolphins just were gross.
And it all like that's another thing I wanted to get to. A lot of in the playoffs, a lot of it is, and I lived this in the Andy Dalton era. A lot of it is all right. Go win us the game, quarterback. And then you get in these games and you realize, like from a spectator standpoint, and I feel like I've been on both sides as a fan. Like with Dalton, it was just like, oh man, they got the quarterback and we don't. Yeah. And then with Burrow, it's like, man, like the Titans game 2 years ago, for me was a perfect example of this.
Burrow,
like I felt like the Bengals were just gonna win the whole time, even though Burrow was getting sacked nonstop, just because Burrow was making big throws, and then Tannehill would do something silly every
that pick
5 or 6 plays.
So bad in that game.
Yeah, and then he throws it at the end, and then I feel like a lot of that is that. And I thought we saw that Stroud went out and made the plays, Flacco didn't, and then I think. Like the Dolphins Chiefs was a perfect example.
Yeah.
Crap weather, right? Chiefs say, Mahomes, go win us this game. And it felt like the Dolphins, Tua couldn't do it, or they felt early he couldn't make the throws to go win them the game. And that was, I think, the difference in the game. That and the Dolphins' injuries. But I feel like you get in the playoffs and that plays out.
Cowboys Packers. Jordan Love just
Cowboys Packers, I think.
Freaking blender.
Yeah, they were aggressive, and he made throws, and Dak, melted in the moment. Again, and then they got humming, but by that point, it didn't matter because they couldn't get any stops. I feel like a lot of times, and then I think Bills Steelers played out like that too. Mm-hmm. Steelers were never going to get close because Allen was just going to, push came to shove, they were going to go score.
Holy crap. Yeah. That was incredible.
So you don't want to make it as simple as that, but sometimes that's really, it feels like that's what it comes down to when you're getting these games. And the fun part about this weekend is I think we've got a lot of good quarterbacks still left.
Well, and one thing I hope they do for the divisional round, I've grown to really like the Manning cast because it reminds me of the old coaches' room for the playoff game because a lot of times they show the all-22 where you actually see more of what the quarterback's looking at because on TV tape, we just know what's happening at the line of scrimmage. And watching them just, I don't know who's the play caller for the Eagles, but that dude, the Mannings might owe him an apology. Like because that
was Dan Mullen's old longtime assistant coordinator Brian Johnson.
Well, math might check out there because. Todd Bowles was just like, we're going to blitz you, and all of your answers are going to be bad ones. Right? Orlovsky was breaking down a play today. They're just running 4 verts. Anytime they went empty, it was just like, all right, well, we're going to bring the house, and Hurts is going to throw it incomplete. He's going to throw it 2 yards in the flat. And a shout-out to your son's namesake, Baker Mayfield out there, just – keeps delivering playoff wins while Jimmy Haslam's watching his team lose.
I did see some of the Brown that Mayfield had a playoff win before the Browns did with Deshaun Watson. Some of those memes.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah, but I think Tampa Bay's running is coming to the end because you got to give credit to the Lions. They might have survived the best quarterback performance of the weekend.
Yeah,
Stafford, and they just
some of that like
red zone defense.
It was red zone defense. And then also bad decision making. First and foremost, the new evolution. It was going for them 4th down. They're just going to start taking delay of games all the time. Why are you wasting timeouts for 5 yards when you could use them later on to, I don't know, get another possession? Right? Like having your 3 timeouts.
The timeout usage was strange.
You have to have those in the NFL, and then not to go for it there when you only had one timeout. That was bizarre. But you know what? I almost don't even get that mad that they missed the PI on Puka or the holding. I mean, it was a lot of jersey in the offhand, which is usually a pretty easy call. But they also messed up the 4th and 5 on the at end of half for the Lions. They were going to go score another touchdown probably, and went and messed it up. Now, I am pissed off at that red zone offense, though, because that over had no business.
Yeah, I had
what
the
the
little.
hell was that?
I
That
had
was
the Lions minus whatever the number was and the over. So
It-
that was looking like an easy cash there
It was
for most
points
of
of
the first half.
palooza. It was 5 touchdowns to start the game, and I just
Yeah. Yeah, so that
Didn't like
was
it.
that was a little disappointing. That was really the only, I think, fun game of the weekend. And so hopefully we'll have a couple more of those this weekend. And
Yeah,
I think we will. Like Bills Chiefs will probably be pretty awesome. And then, well, I mean, we'll see. Can the Texans hang with the Ravens? Can the Packers hang with the Niners? We'll find out.
would like to see if Jordan Love. I mean, he's on a heater right now.
Right.
So that could end up being a fun game, even though the division is the Niners kind of. If you talk to a Packers fan, the Niners are like their worst enemies for the way they treat them in the playoffs. So,
Yeah,
I don't have,
the Niners have had their number, I'm pretty sure, in
it's
recent
kind of like
playoff
the
meetings.
Packers having the Cowboys number.
Yeah, and it's not only just they've blown them out a couple times too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure.
So I don't know. I haven't dug in a lot to these games, but I think I called the Bills. Like I was talking to somebody, I was like, I bet it's Bills minus 2.5, and if it is, I'm gonna take the Bills. Look, you've talked me into the Chiefs flaming out at some point. This is Mahomes' first road playoff game, which is just crazy to say out loud.
Yeah, it's hard for me to envision Buffalo not winning that game Sunday. I just feel like it's all kind of aligned. They're hot at the right time.
They're
Now I
running
do
the
worry about
football.
the injuries. I do worry about their injuries are kind of stacking up on defense, and that concerns me. But they're running the ball as well as they've ever ran it. Their defense is as good as it's ever been during this little run they've had with McDermott, and so it feels like it's kind of building towards them and the Ravens kind of going at it for the AFC Championship.
Which would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I want to see that. So hopefully we'll.
And big game
get
for
some big
Lamar
games.
Saturday. 1-3 in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson's never won a home playoff game. This is a big game for them. They look like potentially the Super Bowl favorites. To me, I think they're the best team entering the playoffs. Big game. Like if you go and lose this one, that would be you would have to wonder, would Lamar ever be on a team this good? Like I think there's some pressure on him. This feels like their time to go on the run, and you're playing a rookie quarterback. So I think a big game like this is like kind of a little tricky game for them. Where if they get past this one, I think they got a really good chance to probably go to the Super Bowl. But there's going to be, I think, some nerves and some rust there because
we
their playoff
bet-
returns haven't been great here recently.
Can we bet fumbles on FanDuel? I know we can bet interceptions.
See, I don't think you can. I have to check.
Might have to bet a Lamar fumble.
You go look at it. Texans defensive touchdown again.
Oh man.
A lot of defensive touchdowns this week. I'll say that.
Oh man. It's going to be exciting. Hopefully we get, we might have to wait a while to hear about anything from Coen. Hopefully we're not talking
I think
about
we're
that next week.
another week or so.
Next week back to Thursday, but it has been a lot of fun chatting with you all here today. Big thanks to all of our sponsors. Big thanks to you, Adam Luckett. You have yourself a nice night. I'm gonna go watch some Fargo. Is that all right with you?
So what is that show about? I've heard a lot of people like it.
Dude,
Yeah, give me the little elevator pitch
right.
of why I should watch Fargo.
Did you ever see the movie Fargo?
Yes.
Okay, so it's a very odd kind of crime story, right? And each season's a completely different story. They basically did American Horror Story for Midwestern crime things.
So like True Detective, where they have different
Yes.
characters each year?
Yes.
Okay.
And this season is one of the best seasons of TV I've watched in a long time. and my wife's actually probably mad at me that we've gone an hour. I was like, oh, I'll try to get done in 45 minutes. But this season kicks ass, and Keely from Ted Lasso is the main character, and she's just fantastic. So
I might have to check that out this offseason.
Yeah, it's a quick watch. Like we burned through like 6 episodes one night, and we're not big on stuff like that. The pilot too really kind of gets your heart racing. So I'll make sure you got a chaser afterwards. Something to help you cool down, because that's that first one's a doozy. We're catching up on TV, right? Football's almost over. Now it's time to get into your good drama TV shows. So
that's right.
Well, it's been a pleasure. For Adam Luckett, I'm Nick Roush. Go Cats and go Kroger.